we'll get started. We're going to start off just using these slides, and then I'm probably going to hop over to a live view and walk through our demo site. That way you can really see on my screen the things that I want you to learn about. So if you actually are already registered for the event and happen to be on a screen that's large enough, I know some people might be on phones or on tablets, probably wouldn't hurt to log yourself in and get on your organization dashboard. That way maybe you can look at yours as I poke around and we can do things together. If not, totally okay. Again, this is going to be recorded and you can revisit later. So our agenda for today, hitting on kind of those high level giving event basics, because we obviously want to make sure that you feel confident in what's coming up next. What is the timeline? What are things that you need to be aware of when it comes to the giving event? We're going to talk about what's new this year. So I was manning to a barking dog here, so I don't know all that was said, but I think I'm coming to you with kind of a fun and unique perspective. I actually worked at the previous platform that you all were on for several years, and now I work over here at Mighty Cause. So I have a really in-depth understanding of the platform you came from, all of the tools that you had access to, and what those changes look like on Mighty Cause. So some of that is going to be what we talk about today. That way we can make sure that as you dive into a new dashboard, you know exactly what you're looking for, even if it lives in a slightly different place. We will talk really briefly on how to register. Since most of you in the call today have already registered, I don't want to take too much time on that topic, but I do want to cover that. And then we will go over the main content, which is how to build out your profile, how to navigate the back end of your Mighty Cause organization dashboard. And then we'll have time for some question and answers at the end. So Giving Day Basics, so really again, high level overview hosted by the Community Foundation of Elmira Corning and the Finger Lakes Inc. Registration began on June 9th. So again, congratulations to those of you who have already registered. Thanks for getting in there early. But registration will stay open till November 1. So I know we had a couple people on the call that said that they haven't registered yet, some that said that they're interested and kind of trying to feel out if this is the right campaign for them. I would say that while registration does stay open until November 1, which gives you plenty of time, I would encourage you to register as soon as you're able, mainly because that will give you more time to be able to get comfortable with the back end of your Giving Day dashboard on Mighty Cause. And two, it gives you more time to really be able to plan your campaign, get communication out there to your supporters, start to secure, matching grant funders, get your peer-to-peer fundraisers set up. So again, while it's open until November 1 for registration, try to get yourself in there a little bit earlier and give yourself more time to really utilize the fundraising features that we have on Mighty Cause. And then just a reminder, so FLX Gives officially starts November 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then will end on November 14th at 6 p.m. Eastern. So what are we going to talk about first? Just a quick nod of what's new this year. So we appreciate everyone for coming along on the journey with the Community Foundation team, moving from a platform to another platform. I think we need to acknowledge that that can be a big change, right? You're on an old platform, you have an understanding of how it works, you're in a space that works for you, but you trust the Community Foundation team and you move over to a new place. So my role today is to touch on some of the things that make this transition more exciting for you as the organization admins. So kind of wanting to talk about what existed, what we still have that you had before, but what are some things that are new? So I think one thing you're really going to love if you're not already in the platform and kind of poking around is that you as organization admins can now take advantage of on-screen editing for your organization pages. So I know that when I transitioned even from, a back end like worker role, I thought it was just like, wow, awesome. Like no longer am I in the back end working on something and then having to click a button to see the front of my profile page. You can do that all easily on one screen and be able to make those edits. So really excited to show you that today. Two, you have customizable profile components. So there are some areas of your profile that you can decide to utilize or not utilize. So you can actually turn things on and turn things off. We do this knowing that some nonprofits want to utilize, let's say, like a media block and pull in more photos where some organizations do not want to. So we'll show you that, but really the ability to decide, pick and choose what works for me, what do I not want to include, and you can turn on and turn off those features. The next thing that is new, so on your previous platform, your supporters would have had access to sign up as peer-to-peer fundraisers. So really that one-to-one fundraising on your behalf. On Mighty Cause, we have peer-to-peer fundraising, but we also take it to another level and we offer team fundraising if your fundraisers want to participate in that. So we won't touch on that as much today. Really, that's going to be in one of our upcoming conversations where we talk about fundraising features and things that we have that you can take advantage of. But just wanting to highlight that we have peer-to-peer fundraising plus some. So some exciting things they could take advantage of if they want to. Um, Configurable matching grants tool. So I know that on your previous platform, you had the ability to set up, matches and challenges. Here at Mighty Cause, we have the ability to do that, but then we have some cool additional features that I think solve some pain points that some of you might have experienced on your previous platform. We have a customizable checkout flow, which we will touch on a bit today. Real-time donation reports, and then there's a little star next to it because we also have, which you can see, we have comprehensive disbursement reports that really help you be able to see, what's coming over to you, what's included in those disbursements, what do those fees look like. And then you can also see some additional reporting that we have that you wouldn't have had available to you last year. So again, trying to unlock features that really make this move in transition even more worthwhile for you as the organization, giving you more tools to take advantage of, allowing this to be really a sustainable growth of the giving event for your participation. And then last but not least, which we will touch on, we have multiple disbursement options. So the ability for you as the org admin to decide whether or not you want to receive the funds that you raise during FLX Gives via direct deposit, or if you would prefer to receive those via check. So we have those flexible options. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I think we'll probably switch now and kind of hop into our demo site just to kind of walk you through what that looks like. So give me 1 second and I will change my screen sharing. All right, there we go. And thank you everyone for using the chat. This is exciting to see what organizations you represent. So I appreciate everybody being chatty. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll hop over and talk about the platform walkthrough. So first things first, this is the flxgives.org platform. So I'm sure those of you who are on the call today who have registered, you have seen this. Those of you who are thinking about registering, welcome to the new look and feel of the website. So I think we just first give a round of applause to Katie and Sarah for building such a beautiful website for this year. I know there's been some revamp of content that's available. The visual of the site, the design, things are looking really nice and fresh for this year. So again, we'll just briefly touch on how do I register if you haven't registered for FLX Gives yet. So we'll go to flxgives.org. We have a few options. So you see a register now option here in the top header. There's also one that lives under the For Nonprofits banner, or if you scroll down here, we can see register here. So your first step is just click one of those three options, which takes you to the registration page. Here is where you can read through information about registration. So telling you what types of organizations can register to participate. And as we scroll down, we see some information on what steps do I need to take depending on what type of organization I am. So have I participated in the past? Well, this is telling you that, the Community Foundation worked to migrate your data over from your previous platform into this existing one and talks you how to log in, get yourself set up so that you can go forward in registration. If you're a brand new organization, this walks you through those steps. And if you are an organization who has not participated before or has, if you happen to be fiscally sponsored or you are a chapter program affiliate of more of a national organization. So this is a really important kind of nod right here. Your step, please read through these thoroughly because you're actually going to want to create a new profile on Mighty Cause to be able to fundraise during FLX Gives. We want to make sure that, again, if you are fiscally sponsored or you are a local chapter of a national organization, we want to create an individual page for you that allows you to keep your fundraising distinct from either your fiscal sponsor or from your national organization. So it just allows you to control the admins on that page, allows you to really keep the donors confined into one specific space. So please make sure to read through those instructions thoroughly if that applies to you. But yeah, so registration is pretty similar to the experience that you would have had on the previous platform. You get yourself here on the registration page, you look at these steps, and then you go through, you'll fill out a really short registration form that allows you to answer a couple questions for the FLX Gives team. Everybody who registers is automatically put into a pending state. And then once the FLX Gives team reviews your registration, you will be either approved or declined, depending on if you meet the requirements to be able to participate. So that usually can take a couple business days, depending on what Katie and Sarah have going on or what day you registered, what time. So just be a little bit patient and they will make sure to go through. Once you are approved or declined, you will receive an automatic email from the Mighty Cause platform letting you know that your status has changed, and it will tell you what that status has been changed to. So you won't be left in the dark after registration happens. Again, automatic emails will be sent to you letting you know where you are and how you're moving through the registration process. So I'll pause really quickly and just see, does anybody have any questions when it comes to registration? That really is kind of the walkthrough in a nutshell. Again, flxgives.org. You're going to click on one of those 3 access points to get you to this registration page, read through the instructions depending on your organization setup type, and then go through the registration form. I don't see any questions, which is good.
Oh, it looks like Jackie had her hand up.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, I didn't have the attendee report pulled up. Do you want to, Jackie, if you do have a question, do you want to send that into the Q&A and I will give it a second, rest my voice, and then once your question comes through, I'll answer that for you. And we will give Jackie a second too, because that could have been maybe an accidental hand raise. So once your question comes through, if you do have one, Jackie, I will pause and come back to that. But we'll go ahead actually and move forward in kind of the walkthrough. There you are. All right, Jackie. So when you are registering, if you upload too fast, how do you fix your description? So if you registered for FLX Gives, you submitted it and you are currently in a pending status, but you realize that there is a change that you want to make to your registration, 2 options that you have. Option 1 is you can contact the FLX Gives team and they will actually have the ability to bump you back into a saved status, which allows you to come back to the registration form and you'll be logged in. And this form will actually tell you, hey, it looks like you've already started a registration for your organization. Do you want to edit that? And so you'd be able to click in, you could edit whatever it was and you could resubmit. Or option 2 is you can do something similar. If you reach out to our customer support team at support@mightycause.com, our team can also bump you back into a saved status where you can edit your registration answer and then you can resubmit again. So up to you what team you want to reach out to, but both of us have the ability to bump you back to saved where you'll be able to make some updates and then you can resubmit that registration. Yes, of course. And that is also, I didn't mean to speak on behalf of the FLX Gives team. If you reach out to them and let them know, it's possible that they'll just take your new submission offline too, but we have a couple options. So just reach out to one of our 2 teams and we'll get you helped out. Great question. Perfect. So let's go ahead and hop into what does the actual backend look like and what can you do as an organization admin. So one of the first things that I want to talk about, because the access point is a little bit different than what you maybe would have done on your previous platform, is that let's make sure every time that you log into the platform with intentions of editing your profile for FLX Gives, you want to actually start at flxgives.org. Up here in the right-hand corner, you will see an option that says log in. Right now, we see my name because I'm already logged in, but it would just say log in. When you click on log in, it would take you to a screen where you can either log in or sign up. So you would be logging in and then you would land back on this screen. So this is where I'm seeing the whole website, but then I have my name up here in the upper right corner. I would then go ahead, click on my name, and then under, I don't manage organizations, but if I did, I would see an organizations tab, and that's where I'd be able to click on the name of my organization to travel to my organization dashboard. One really common question we get for nonprofits that have migrated from a different platform over to ours is they will get into the back end of their organization page and they will say, my fundraising tools aren't working. What that signifies to us as admins on Mighty Cause is that you have likely logged in via the wrong access point. So by participating in a giving event, you actually have access to fundraising tools that nonprofits would have to otherwise pay for if they weren't associated with a giving event. So we want to make sure that you're always using the door of flxgives.org to log in. If you were to go to mightycause.com and log in, you'd actually be using a different door, so to speak, when you log in via that method and you land on your organization's dashboard. You would see grayed out areas for some of the tools that we're going to cover today. And if you clicked on them, it would tell you you need a subscription to be able to utilize them. That's going to be your first key to know that you likely logged in via the wrong way because the system is recognizing you as someone who is not in a giving event versus somebody that is. So, long story short, just make sure anytime you're logging in to make edits for FLX Gives that you're starting at flxgives.org, logging in, and then accessing your organization page that way. Again, because I don't manage an org page, I'm going to hop over into our demo platform where we're going to walk through what does it look like to access the org dashboard and what are some important things that you need to know to really get yourself started. So here's an example of an organization dashboard. So for today, I'm going to pretend I'm an admin for the Animal Humane Society. Let's just go ahead and so let's say we land here on our organization page. So some quick, easy things you can see. We want to make sure we're logged in, and that's what allows us to have all of these kind of toggle tools to be able to interact with our organization page. On the left-hand side, we see the little hamburger menu, which I click, and that exposes my organization dashboard. Again, I told you earlier, one of the most exciting things that I really love about my transition from your previous platform to this one is the on-screen editing capabilities. So when I land on my page, over here in the right-hand corner, I have edit mode, which I can turn on. When edit mode is turned on, I see the ability to make a bunch of changes. So I have these little icons that show up next to different elements that are on my page. And so I can start to interact with those elements and make changes based off of things that I want to be able to adjust. So let's say that I wanted to make a quick change to the header image. I just click on this little photo image here, and then I can say that I want to change my banner image, or let's say that I have a good image back there, but it's too bright or it's too light. I can actually add a cover overlay to it to kind of manipulate what that filter looks like. I won't go over all of these because I think, again, it's pretty self-explanatory and there's some things you can click on and explore. But really, the main kind of note here is that if there's an icon next to it, feel free to click on it and see what kind of things you can change when it comes to that specific element. One that I think is sometimes hidden here is this little palette icon where you can actually change your theme color that shows on your organization profile page. As we can see here, we have this kind of teal color that aligns with the branding for the Animal Humane Society. When I select this teal color, it pulls into different areas of my profile, like my donate button color, the color of my metrics bar, the color of my about tab, and then some of the background areas of some sections further down on my page. So that's one that I think is sometimes overlooked, but is kind of a neat addition that you can utilize if you want to pull in more of your organization branding onto your page. So again, not going to go over all of these components, but I am going to touch on ones that I think are kind of most important for you to be able to know about. So one of the first ones is actually the name of your organization. So it's possible that during your migration or from your previous platform to this one, or if you are a brand new organization who is registering for FLX Gives, that you could land on your page and you see your organization's legal name here. We work with a lot of nonprofits who might have a different like full legal name versus their like doing business name or the name that the public knows them by. So if you fall into that category and want to make an adjustment to your name that's automatically included on your page, you can do so again, clicking that pencil icon, and you can change the name of your front-facing page. You'll see a quick little note that says that this is not going to affect your legal name. So don't be worried that that's going to change anything on the back end when it comes to your reporting or, your IRS verification, anything like that. This is really just changing the front-facing name that organizations will see when they land on your page. Another thing that we can change down here, so again, we're not going to dive into peer-to-peer fundraising in its entirety today. That's going to be a future training that I do with you in person. But just to quickly show you, you have the option on our platform to decide whether or not you want fundraising to be available for your supporters. That's as simple as coming down here, clicking this little announcement button, and then you can turn on or turn off the fundraise button. So that's kind of the first step for you to toggle on or off a button if you don't want that to be visible. Another option you have here on your page is controlling your metrics. So, something that you'll start to notice as you orient yourself on the Mighty Cause platform is that your organization page is really meant to be a one-stop shop hub of all of your fundraising efforts that happen on Mighty Cause. Your previous platform, again, was kind of meant to do that, but it was more segmented, and you would access your dashboard and you would be able to, let's say, see a different page that you use for giving events or a different page that you used for, a fundraising campaign. So you kind of had this hub that then branched off into other spaces. Slightly different kind of architecture behind the scenes over here at Mighty Cause. This one page that you have is really, again, that one-stop shop for all of your fundraising. So it's possible that you participate in FLX Gives on the Mighty Cause platform. You end up really loving your experience, and then you decide, hey, I want to use Mighty Cause for like more of my year-round fundraising because right now we don't have a space to really make that happen. Um, that's fantastic. Our pages have the ability to be able to let you do that, and we'll dive into that a little bit more in depth in future trainings. For the purposes of today, what I want to show you is the ability to really update your metrics and decide what is showing at what time. So going back to that first thing that I said, that your page kind of shows everything in its entirety, again, kind of a best school of thought and best practice for giving events is that these are time-based fundraising campaigns, right? And so let's say in this example, I'm the Animal Humane Society, and throughout the year, I've actually fundraised $713,000. Fantastic. That's huge. When I'm preparing for the upcoming giving event, I want my metrics to go back to zero because when a donor lands on my page during the upcoming giving event, I want them to see a true reflection of just what I have raised during that specific campaign that I am participating in. So I, as the organization admin, can come in here. I click my little pencil icon. I can first decide, do I want to just showcase my donors? Do I want to showcase my dollars and donors, vice versa? Then I can scroll down here and I can say, I don't want to include offline donations, or I do. I want to calculate over time. And so that would be an example where, I'm using this for year-round fundraising and I want to show all of the fundraising that I have done. Or I'm getting ready for an upcoming giving event and I want to make sure that I am zeroed out based off of like the upcoming campaign. And so if I come in here to say calculate for a specific date, I would then set that to the specific start time of FLX Gives. And so that's going to take my metrics from looking like I have fundraised $713,000 to going back to zero. Logic behind that is clearly like when a donor lands on your page, if I was in FLX Gives and it's 6 p.m. and it just started and I land on your page and I'm like, oh my gosh, they've already raised all this money. I, as a donor, might feel a lot less urgent to give you a donation if I feel like you have already been really successful and there's a lot going on. So we want to make sure that that's zeroed out. So again, it's incentivizing donors to give now versus showing them what you have raised over time. So that's one things that I wanted to touch on here. Likewise, if for some reason it doesn't align with your strategy to be able to show what you have fundraised, you can always hide that section. I will say that for most 99.9% of nonprofits, we want to make sure that that section is visible. But if for some reason you had a really edge case as to why that shouldn't be visible, you could hide that if you needed to. Similarly, we have our organization, we have a donor or a dollar goal that we have here that we can leverage, which you can change as the campaign goes on as well. Some other things I wanted to highlight when it comes to your organization page that are different than your experience from last year. So I talked about this on-screen editing, right, where I can make changes to things that I want to include or not include. Kind of similar when it comes to your about section. So this is where we really want to tell the story of your organization. We want to tell a quick, concise story of what you have done, what your history is, but also making sure that the main focus of this page is what are you fundraising for this year when it comes to FLX Gives. So you want this to read to a donor really quickly on this is who my org is, this is what we do, and this is what a donation to my org right now can do for us. Here on this about section is where you can build that out. So you'll be able to see, right, pretty standard text editor. You can bold text, italicize, underline. You can change things into superscript. You can change the color. You can change, is it a large or a small heading or just a paragraph? You can align it. So everything that you need to do as far as how that text is showing can be manipulated here with this editor. You can add text, or you can add photos, you can put buttons onto your page, you can add videos. So really kind of anything that you want to put in this about section, you can do by utilizing this kind of tool that we have right here. One cool thing that is new from last year to this year is that if you want to, you have the option to actually leverage an additional tab on your page if you would like to. So by clicking on this plus icon here, I can engage an additional tab of content to have on my organization page for FLX Gives. I can change the name of that tab if I want to. So I can rename the tab to new tab, which would be an interesting name to have. My Bluetooth keyboard apparently has disconnected, but in theory, so I could name that whatever I wanted to. And then I can add additional content. So sometimes I talk to nonprofit admins about this two tab ability in a way that, less is more, right? When it comes to your donors coming to your page, we want to minimize those barriers to entry. We want them to get the most important information about your org. We want them to read it quick. We want them to make a donation in the least amount of time possible. That being said, I know that all of the nonprofits we work with have such incredible stories, and there's a lot of content that you want to be able to put in front of donors to be able to read because your mission matters. The work that you do matters, and you feel really passionately about sharing your story. So for some organization admins, they have a really hard time kind of paring down all of that content into something that feels concise and really, small and put together for the giving event. So for those org admins, sometimes I encourage them to say, okay, this about tab is always going to show by default to your donors. So let's really focus on making sure the content on the about tab is, again, concise and talking about what's happening right now. What is my donation right now doing? And then if you feel like there's more information that you want to provide to those donors to be able to read, why don't we leverage this additional tab to put content in there? And that way they can opt into reading more about your organization if they want to. So some organization pages you go to might have this about tab where it's again a really brief history of their org, talking about what what their mission is, what are they fundraising for right now, what are my dollars doing right now, and then maybe I see this other tab is named like organization history, and so I as a donor can decide, did I get enough about them by reading the information here to make a gift? Or do I have plenty of time and I'm really curious and I can opt into reading more that they've included for me? So again, it's an ability for you to be able to put all the content out there that you want to showcase, but really allowing the donor to opt in if they want to read more. So some cool ways I've seen this done. I've seen some nonprofits use this for like a history. I've seen some nonprofits use it for like upcoming events. And so they might create a page and then they have, linked out some events that they have coming up throughout the year. I've seen some nonprofits utilize this tab to say like our board, and then they might include some pictures and like a brief bio of people that are on their board. So really it can be utilized in whatever way you want to if there is additional content that you want to put out there in front of those donors that they can opt into reading about. So that's a new thing that you wouldn't have had in a previous year. And then if you decide you don't want that anymore, you can just delete that tab and it's gone. So that's the About section in a nutshell. As we scroll down, we have some other sections that you can add to your page if you want to. So this featured campaigns area is the ability for you as the organization admin to actually hand select campaigns that you want to feature. So the word is aptly named that you want to feature on your page. If we scroll down a little bit, we can see that there's another section here that's called campaigns supporting this organization. So they function kind of similarly, but in two different ways. This section here will, if you decide to include it on your page, it will automatically pull in every single peer-to-peer fundraiser page that is created once it's been published. So if you decide to include it on your page, you can include it and then you can forget it because the platform will automatically pull in the pages that are created once they've been published. This section up here is actually more manual for you, but it allows you to highlight specific fundraising pages. If you decide to include it, you would then come in here with edit mode on, you would click the plus icon, and this is where you would search for a specific fundraiser to be able to highlight in this area. As we can see, this featured campaigns area pulls in the background color that I set above when I set a theme color. So it brings a little bit more of like a visual presence to this section in a way to really feature and highlight something. I have seen this utilized by organization admins. If, let's say, you know you're going to have a lot of peer-to-peer fundraisers. So including this section down here that automatically pulls them in once they're published is really easy for you because you're going to have, let's say, like 10 to 15 pages that are going to be showing here. But maybe this year you are doing a specific push to have your board members be able to fundraise, and you want to be able to give them a little bit more recognition as a way to incentivize them to fundraise. So perhaps in this section where you have featured campaigns, you're just putting the names, you're putting in the campaigns of your board members. So they would show here and they would also show in this section, but by including this, you're kind of giving them a little bit of extra recognition. They're pulled into a space on your page that is shown on their own with a little bit of an extra color to really visually engage your donors. You have the option to leverage both of these partials. You can decide to use one and not the other. There is no right or wrong. It really just depends on your strategy and if you have a reason to really like segment a section, a part of your fundraisers in a way different than kind of your general fundraisers. So let's say I just explained all that to you and you're like, yeah, that's cool, but like I don't really have a need to utilize this featured area for this year. Maybe in the future, once we kind of figure out a strategy for why we would want to do that, easy. So you just come here, you click the pencil icon and you click hide section, and that can just remove it from your page. Similar as we scroll down, so you'll see this next to most of the components on the profile where you can decide if you click the pencil icon, you can hide it. So some of you, when you come to your page, you might have some features that are engaged. Some of you might look more like this, where you see a spot that's like something could live there, but it's not engaged just yet. So if you come to your page and it looks the inverse like this, it's just as simple as clicking this plus icon, and that's what's actually going to add that partial back to your page. So you can add things, remove things, really simple to be able to do that. I have a question that just came in. Good question. I'm going to highlight that here in just a second, so I'll get to you in just a moment. But yeah, so that is kind of your page in a nutshell. Just kind of getting you used to the concept of on-screen editing, the ability to add, remove things, and really have more control over what your page looks like. One question that just came in, because this is different than your experience from last year, is if you remember what your organization page looked like on your previous platform, there would have been a section right here, kind of underneath the donate button, that would have prompted organizations with donation or prompted your donors with donation levels. And so they would have seen the donate button, but then there might have been a tab for, let's say, like 25, 50, 75, 100. And so that would have been default donation levels that you as the org admin would have put in place for donors to click on. We still have the ability to do that on the Mighty Cause platform. It's just that those donation levels that you set live on the first step of the donation flow rather than on your organization page. So right now, from a donor's experience, if I click on the donate button and I go onto the first step of the donation flow, this is where I'm going to see those preset donation levels that you have set as the organization admin. So you'll see looks kind of similar. So I can set the dollar amount and then I can give it a description if I want to. So you're not losing any functionality. It's just living in a space that makes a little bit more sense to donors, and we're prompting them to pick that donation level on the first step of the flow rather than having that take up space on your profile page. So great question. And I'll show you here in a second actually where you can go to set that up once we talk about some other tabs on your dashboard. Perfect. But yeah, that is kind of the front-facing organization page. Is there any other questions? And it's okay if they come up later and you haven't thought of them just yet, but any other questions about kind of what your front-facing page looks like and how to make changes when it comes to that on-screen editing? Happy to answer those if they come through. And until any other questions come in, let's really quickly dive into some other options that you have here in your organization dashboard that are relevant to some of the things that you're going to be doing right now. So we talked about, right, editing our front-facing page and things that we can do here. Here in our organization dashboard, let's go over a couple of these tabs. So on your overview tab of the dashboard is where you're going to see what it says, a high-level overview of what's going on your organization page over time. So once FLX Gives gets up and running and donations start coming in, you'll start to see some activity happening in these toggles, letting you know, how many donations have come in recently, what are you raising online? What's your retention look like? So it's likely that when you land on your page, you're not going to see anything in here because you don't have donations coming in right now. One thing I did want to show you, though, that is kind of important and relevant on your overview tab is your organization to-do list. And so this is just our way to really prompt you to fill out some basic components of your organization page that we think are important in order to make sure donors are having the best experience when they land on your page. So in your to-do list is likely going to be, completing your organization page, setting up your electronic funds transfer, so how you're going to receive your dispersed funds, setting up the thank you page for your donors, and then there might be other items on the to-do list depending on your event. So our to-do list feature is pretty cool. It is dynamic. So let's say that I see here that I still have to set up my preferred disbursement method. If I click on that, it will actually take me to the space on my organization dashboard where I can set up that item so that I can take it off of my to-do list. If you want to as well, in this to-do list, you can click on Open Detailed To-Do List, and that will show you a complete breakdown of the items that are included there. So let's say that this was originally unchecked. You could come here and see, oh, okay, I added a logo, but it's saying that this isn't completed because I don't have a banner image yet, or I don't have my About section set up yet. So again, this to-do list is really just, I think, a built-in Mighty Cause tool meant to prompt you to fill out areas of your page that we think are most important for the donor to have the best possible experience. So definitely recommend checking that out, clicking through your to-do list and to the best of your ability, making sure that you have that completed. The organization page tab of your dashboard is where we land in the component that we just talked about. So any on-screen editing, changes to your organization page that you need to make will happen in that organization page tab. Some other tabs that are important for right now-ish. So we have our fundraising tools area. And again, we'll go into this more in depth in future trainings, but campaigns is where we'll be able to see all of the peer-to-peer fundraisers that are created on behalf of my organization. I can see, what's the name, what type of page is it, what is it raised, when was it last changed, who owns that page, when was it created. So a lot of high level information. And I can also click through and be able to help make edits to those pages as well. So that's one thing that we can do in here. Also in our fundraising tools is where we'd be able to go in and set up any matching grants. And so I actually just worked with the FLX Gives team to put together a quick training video on how to set up a matching grant, which is visible on the nonprofit toolkit. Feel free to watch that if you're getting a little antsy and wanting to set up your matching grant earlier. But do know that we're going to dive into this more in depth in that live training that we're going to do in person. And then some other things that might actually be relevant to right now, if you want to get started on them, if you have time and capacity, is we do have the ability for you to create a fundraiser template. And so this allows any supporter who comes to your page, clicks on that fundraise button, will give them the option to proceed with a template created by you as the org admin, or they can start from scratch. I find this to be a really helpful and really great tool for you to utilize as an org admin because you're, again, removing barriers to entry for your supporters. By creating a fundraising template and doing most of the work for them, now your supporter just goes to that fundraise button, they click on it, they use your template, and then there's just a couple spots that they have to make an edit to before they publish their page. So you're just making that process way smoother and you're having some control over what those pages look like because you're setting some of that messaging for them. So we won't go into this full again because we're going to talk about this more in our upcoming training. But if you wanted to create a template, you could click on plus create and then come in here and you'd be able to set a title. You could set a fundraising goal for your fundraisers, an image, a short story, those kinds of things, and then set that. We do have a question that came in. Please explain peer-to-peer. What are they and how do you create them? So a peer-to-peer fundraiser is someone, so a supporter. So let's talk about me and you are the organization. It gives me, as the supporter, the ability to come to your organization page. I click on this fundraise button and I actually create a mini page that allows me to be able to put my story about, why I love the Animal Humane Society. So, I adopted 2 of my dogs and a cat from you all. You have done amazing work in the community. I really champion this cause because I see the work that you're doing for our local animals and I want to help fundraise on your behalf. So I create this little mini page that allows me, Natalie, to be able to put on my own story. I share that page with my community. So I put it on Facebook, I put it on my Instagram, I send it in emails to some of my friends, and it allows me to spread the mission of your organization. And then I reach new donors because I'm putting this page in front of people that maybe you're not able to reach with your marketing efforts, and I help to secure donations on your behalf. So that is peer-to-peer fundraising. So a peer helps you fundraise on your behalf. An example of what that page looks like if someone does fundraise and signs themselves up is, let's see if I can actually open one of these. Let's see what Mark's page might look like. So here's an example of, let's pretend this says Natalie instead. So this could be my peer-to-peer fundraising page. So here, I have my little title. I have a picture that I was able to upload. You can see how many dollars I have raised on behalf of your organization. I have a little story here that tells about why I am fundraising specifically for your organization. And then if there's any matches that you have set up on the org level, that's visible here as well. Anybody who donates to my peer-to-peer fundraiser page would show here on my giving activity wall. And then again, my metrics would uptick. So if I had a $5 donation come in, you'd see that donor and that gift amount if they decided to show that publicly. And then my metrics would move up to $5 raised by one person. So again, the ability for a supporter to come and fundraise on your behalf, create their own page, and then share that out with the public is what peer-to-peer fundraising is. Great question. And I believe we actually have more information about that too on the nonprofit toolkit if you want to kind of dive in more than that quick explanation. So those are some things in the fundraising tools area. Other areas that are probably important for right now when it comes to your org kind of setup page at this moment in time is in your settings area. So first things first is a lot of times we have nonprofits write in that say, I registered my organization, but I have more people that should have access to my organization page. And so if I'm in my org dashboard, if I come into settings and I come into admins, this is where you can go in and you can add a new admin to your organization page. So first name, last name, their email, you could put in their phone number, what their role is, their position, and then you'll be able to save them and add them as an administrator. It's usually likely, but we do work with some nonprofits where you might be the one person that is managing all these efforts, in which case you don't have to add an additional admin, or you might have more people on your team that need access, so you can go ahead and add them. Likewise, I always encourage nonprofits who have participated in the past, once you are registered, coming into this admin area and making sure that the correct people do have administrative access to your page. Um, let's say that you had some team members that, helped before the migration from your previous platform to this platform, and maybe those team members are no longer with your organization. Always important to come here, and let's say that maybe Bethany doesn't work here anymore. Let's remove Bethany. When we're thinking about admin access, these people have access not only to making on-screen changes to your org page, but they can actually also look at your donation report. They can download information. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping this as cleaned up as possible. So if someone no longer works at your organization, or they do work there, but they're no longer focused on this area, it's best to go in there and remove them. That way, only the people that should have access to organization and donor information are added as your administrators. The next thing in here, just kind of your general settings. So when your page is created, so either through that migration from the last platform to this one, or if you're creating a brand new page because you are fiscally sponsored or a local chapter of a national organization, you'll automatically be given kind of a slug that lives at the end of your URL. So this is showing you what it would look like in our demo site, but if you were on your org page for FLX Gives, it would show https://flxgives.org/ blah, blah, blah. So you can control that very last part of the slug that is applicable to your organization. I don't recommend changing this multiple times. I would say that this should be like a review this once, set it to what you want it to be, save it, and then leave it. Mainly because, right, we don't want the same thing with like your normal year-round organization page. If you're constantly changing what your website is, how's anyone going to be able to find you, right? So like this should probably just be a one time. If I need to adjust what my slug looks like, let's do that once, save it, and then that way moving forward, it just looks like what I want it to look like. Keep in mind, though, that we can only have one unique slug per organization across the entire Mighty Cause database. So it's possible that, the Animal Humane Society There are thousands of those. So, like, you might have to add a number or you might have to change how you lay it out in order to get the slug that you want if it's already taken. But wanted to show you that because it's possible that depending on how you were migrated over, or if you're a brand new page that was created for one of those specific circumstances, you might just have like a random, like, just like assortment of letters or something that isn't super applicable. You can come in here and make an update to that, save that, and then just leave that moving forward. Some other cool things that we have that are a little bit different than your last platform. Again, they're not really coming into play just yet, but they will as we move closer to FLX Gives, are some alternate search names. So let's say that example where I am the Animal Humane Society, but like that's my legal name. I'm known more commonly in the community as, like, maybe we abbreviate it a lot. And so AHS is something that I would expect a donor to type into search to try to find me. You can come in here to the alternate search names area and you can add two different alternate names that a donor could search and it will still pull you up as. So super helpful sometimes, again, for organizations who might have a legal name versus like a public display name. Or sometimes we have organizations that have recently like rebranded or they've combined with another org. And so you might put like your old name in here because you know some donors might search for you based off of a different term. So you can utilize those two different search names. And then if we scroll down here, another area that is kind of neat that you can update is your social share settings. So here is where I can control. We all probably know what it's like to grab a link from somewhere and maybe I share it in Slack or I put it in a text message or I put it on Facebook. And you know how there's usually a default like image and description that gets pulled in when you share a URL. You can actually control some of how that appears when you share your organization page URL, slash how, like, if I'm a donor and I'm like, I really want to share the Animal Humane Society page and make sure people give to it, anybody who takes your URL and puts it somewhere else, this message would pop up. So I'm super excited. Thank you, Alex, for being excited about it too. I thought this was really neat because you didn't have as much control over it on your previous platform. Here you can control what is that preview image going to look like? What should that title look like? What's that description? Do you want to include kind of an account that it's attached to? And do you want to include a hashtag that would pull in with it as well? So all options you can utilize. I typically encourage nonprofit admins unless you feel like you're really on top of things. Like, I know my personal limitations. I know I have the best of intentions. Sometimes I set things and I forget them. So if I was an org admin when it came to setting up my title and description, I personally would probably try to avoid putting like years or dates. So I probably wouldn't say like FLX gives 2025 and here's the dates, just because like my memory wouldn't remember to come back here next year and change it with dates. So like I would probably make my message more evergreen. But if you are someone who's more on top of things and you want dates included in here and you want it to be more specific, feel free to set these how you would like to. Just remember that once we roll over for the next year, you'll need to come in here and make some updates. But this is a kind of cool area you wouldn't have had access to before that now you can edit. What else do we have that I want to talk about today? So org info, that's really kind of all of your legal stuff. One big one. So how are you going to receive your funds for FLX Gives? So I touched on this a little bit in kind of the first, like what's new, but you have the option over here at Mighty Cause to decide if you want your donations to be received via electronic funds transfer. So that's directly to your bank account, or if you want to receive them via check. We know that some orgs had different preferences. We always encourage you to go via the direct deposit route just because that means funds get to you faster. But if there is a specific reason why you need it to be a check, we are more than happy to do that disbursement method. So some important things to note is that if you go the option of doing electronic funds transfer, you'll get your funds faster. So you get them twice monthly, on the 10th and the 25th of the month, depending on when donations are received. And I think we have that outlined in the FAQs of like when you would receive them based off of the FLX Gibbs timeline. If we don't, I'll definitely work with the team to make sure we outline that. Flip side, if you decide that getting check is the best way for you to receive donations, that's totally fine. We send out checks once a month, and there is a $5 fee for each check that gets sent out. So that you can go that route, but I just want you to know it's kind of a slower route and there is a fee associated with it versus direct deposit is faster and no fee, but up to you. So in this disbursement settings area is where you would set that up. So just know that we typically would encourage you to say like at minimum, let's say like one full business week worth of days to change your disbursement settings prior to donations opening. So that way we make sure our team has enough time to review any documentation that you were required to submit and follow up on any questions that we have. So I would say like sooner than later, getting into your disbursement settings, making sure that things are set up way in advance for FLX gives, but you could change it later if you had to, but just make sure you give enough time for our team to work through any questions we might have to get your preferred method set up. Cool. And then what's the last thing? I know, thank you all for bearing with me. I know I'm running a little bit over, but hopefully you have a couple minutes to hang out with me. One thing that I promised I was going to show you is how to set up your default donation levels if you wanted to. So in your org dashboard under checkout, if you click on donation form, this is where you could set up those preset donation levels. So if I click on that pencil icon, I can set the dollar amount and then I can set the description as well. So this is where you could do that. I believe you can set up, I think, yeah, 4 is what we have that set to, or you could do less than 4 if you wanted to, but that's all here for you. Let me think if there's anything else before I open it up to Q&A that I wanted to touch on for today. I think that's mainly it. Again, focus for today is just teaching you about the new platform, showing you how to register if you haven't already, showing you how to get started in your organization page so that you don't feel intimidated about getting started on a new platform. Knowing that we're really excited to dive into like peer-to-peer fundraising, matching grants. How do I leverage these cool new reports? Like that's what's going to come in our next training that we do, but we didn't want to overwhelm you with like here's what to do with it before you understood how to even utilize the platform itself. So I think that's probably a good stopping point for me. Again, appreciate everyone who joined today. If you have a hard stop, this is recorded, will be available on the toolkit probably again by end of day tomorrow at the latest. If you have time to stay on, I have some flexibility. I'm more than welcome to stay on a bit for any specific questions that come in. And I don't know if Katie and Sarah, if you want to say anything before people might have to jump, and then we'll kind of linger for questions and answers.
Just thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we are really, really excited about the upcoming trainings and digging in and seeing all of your campaign pages.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, cool. So I think we have, and again, if you have to leave, thanks for your time. So here's a
Oh,
relevant one. So I don't know, Kate, if you want to reiterate, we have a question. Do you have times for the next trainings?
I sure do. And the details of the trainings can be found on that nonprofit toolkit. So if you visit flxgives.org, click on for nonprofits in the top left. Thank you, Natalie. This is like
Mm,
magic.
yeah.
And then all the details are there. So our next training is at 1 p.m. on the 23rd. So a little afternoon party. And then the third training is in the morning on August 21st, 9 a.m. to 11.
Mhm.
That the July 23rd is 1 to 3 p.m. So we've got lots to cover. Natalie kind of like, I feel like we barely scratched the surface, but we
I know.
covered so much because there is so much this platform can do. So I echo Alex's sentiment on the excitement behind the social share. Hopefully, you all are feeling so excited about the capacity that Mighty Cause has given us to really up our game this year.
Yeah, and I love the comment about looks very intuitive and user friendly. I think, again, from my perspective, working behind the scenes and working with giving event hosts on both platforms and working with nonprofits on both platforms, I have been fortunate to work with, I think this is like my third or fourth group that is migrated from previous platform to this one, and hearing the nonprofit experience and like kind of what Mighty Cause unlocks for them like has been really positive for all of these organizations. Like you said, it's a little bit more intuitive. It is a faster ability to edit because you can see on screen what you're doing. And I think, again, it allows you, we're always thinking about sustainable growth. And at some point on a platform, you might hit the top of like, okay, I've used everything and what do I do next? Right. And so migrating over to a platform where we have those same tools, but then like, here are all the awesome like additional things you can do with it. I'm really excited in this next training to really dive into like what can we do to take your fundraising to the next level with these cool new tools that we have to be able to unlock. So thanks for bearing with me for more of, I don't want to say boring, but like it's the less jazzy version of the training today, which is just getting you oriented. But then our next one's gonna be like, okay, you understand it. Now where do I go from here? So yeah, just appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you, Natalie, too. Big
yeah.
shout out to Natalie. Thank you so much for walking us through this.
Of course, of course. So it looks like we do have a question, Alex. Thanks. I'm so glad that you're excited about social share settings. So you asked about if peer-to-peer fundraisers also have the ability to make some of those changes. So let's dive in there really quickly so that I make sure I don't eat my words and tell you the wrong thing. So if I come in as a peer-to-peer fundraiser, if I come into my settings and then I scroll down, I do have the ability to also edit my social share settings. So again, that is good because they have that option. I think what I just showed you too is that, you know, peer-to-peer fundraisers can do a bit more on our platform than they could on the last one. So, right, we're setting our social share settings. That's a tough one to say. It's like the seashells, like alliteration. It's tough for me. They can come in and like they can set donation levels. So there's a lot of cool things they can do. And I think some nonprofit admins are going to be like, awesome. Like that's putting a lot more on them. It allows them to really customize like their fundraiser experience. Some nonprofit admins are going to be like, like I don't want to give people more because like I get a little fearful of like giving power to like the hands of my fundraisers to like run with. So the great thing that I'll continue to reiterate is that you as the org admin, again, here is where you'll see all of your fundraisers that have signed up and that have published their pages, and you will always have the ability to come here and click on campaign dashboard, and you can come into the back end and make edits for them. So let's say the use case where you have a fundraiser who really wants to be engaged, but maybe they're not as technologically inclined, hop in, help them make changes. Or let's say, and hopefully this doesn't happen, you have a peer-to-peer fundraiser that really runs with it, but they run in a different direction than where you were hoping that they would go. You can go into the back end of their page and you can make adjustments for them to like set them back on the track that you want. So let's say they have an image that you don't really love, you could change out that image. Or if there was a piece of copy and a typo or something that was, not exactly how you wanted it to be relayed, you can always come in here and make some adjustments for them. So you have that full ownership as an org admin, which is nice. Perfect. But yeah, again, reiterating for those of you who are still on, thanks for being here. Can't express enough. So if we're back on like the home page, going through these resources, so we have your nonprofit toolkit that's available. And so up here in the top, it links out to the Mighty Cause support library where you can see all of our support articles that are created. So you can just search some keywords. We have done our best to kind of curate some of the more helpful support articles based off of what we know to be like year one on our platform experience. And so as we scroll down here, we have some kind of walkthroughs, but here in our 5 steps to fundraising, right? We talk about like get ready by doing this first, attend a training, build out your page, and here are the resources we think are helpful to guide you in that direction. How do I plan for success and how do I spread the word? So we've done our best to kind of put together resources for you, but you have access via, support library here, or if you scroll all the way down, I believe we talked about it again here, where you can go back to that support, that resource library as well. And then one other cool thing that I can't believe that I forgot to talk about it is so if we're on the back end of any of your pages, or it actually could be the front side of the site too, but you'll see this little like question mark area that pops up. And so if we click on that, we actually have a smart support center that will recognize what page you are on as a user, and it will automatically prompt you with suggested articles to help answer a question that it's anticipating that you have. So here I am on my org page and I click here and I see how to reset my profile metrics, how to add a goal. So it's like already trying to answer the question before you ask it. So you can come here and let's say these don't answer my question. I can type in another question. Example, if I switch now and I'm on my matching grants page, in theory, let's see if this will redo itself. Now I'm seeing frequently asked questions about matching grants. So it's always going to try to answer your question before you have it. And so I think that's also really helpful. And sometimes people don't realize that that is there. So another kind of direct access to not only our suggested articles, but if you start to type in keywords, it will pull up more articles based off of the question that you just provided it. Likewise, in this area, let's say that you can't find the answer that you want. If you click on this contact button, that's what will actually put you in contact with our Mighty Cause support team as well. So that will send an automatic message to our support team, and then we'll be able to follow up with you via email on that. But yeah, we are here, happy to help. I am here, happy to help. Hopefully, this at least gets you started. For those of you who were just like trying to feel out if this was the campaign for you, you're not going to find more exciting and nice people to work with than Katie and Sarah. So I would say if it's just about the personnel, you've got the team. So go ahead and do it because they're going to make this experience very exciting for you. They're going to help you when you need help. They're going to champion your causes. So they're just like very nice, awesome humans that I wouldn't want to be associated with any other team. So do that. The platform is really intuitive. We've had a lot of success again with just giving days at large, but also giving events like yours who have migrated from the previous platform you were on to this one. So we have that proven track record of like this can be successful if you buy in and you take the time to make this campaign worthwhile for you. So I'm excited to have you here. Hopefully you learned what you needed to learn today to tip the needle and get you in to be able to register. But um, any additional questions that come up, again, feel free to reach out to the FLX Gives team, or you can reach out to us at support@mightycause.com. We're here and happy to help. And then, yeah, just reiterating, we have these upcoming trainings that you can find on the nonprofit toolkit page where we will talk more about, peer-to-peer fundraising, matching grants. How do I leverage my like cool reports that I have in my donations? What are new things that I can do to really up my campaign for this year? So excited to meet you all in person, which is always awesome because sometimes I'm stuck behind a computer in my house and I feel like what's happening out there in the world. So I'll get to meet you, we'll talk, you can tell me all about the awesome work your nonprofit is doing, and then I can help you hopefully be as successful as possible for the upcoming campaign. So yeah, thanks again for your time, everyone. Slide deck will be available here in a couple minutes, recording probably later tomorrow. But if you need anything, just let us know. Awesome. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.